Everyone knows the importance of the mental game and is trying to push the needle forward for themselves or with their team. The question is, as a coach, what are you doing proactively throughout the entire culture of your team that is improving the mental side of the game for your players and just overall boosting confidence so that they can perform at their best on the field? So let's start with me just defining what I think the mental game is, or how I like to look at it. And for me, the mental game is defined as your ability to focus on the task in front of you, regardless of what happened in the past or could happen in the future. We've all coached players that have been on both sides of the spectrum. So we have the players that tend to think about the past, whether it was good or bad. They struck out, or as a pitcher, they walked a couple of guys, they gave up a couple runs the previous inning, and they're still dwelling on that, and they let it carry over into the next batter, which usually leads to worse things happening. Or there's the flip side of that. You're looking to the future too much. And this was the case for me oftentimes as a player, is you start off well, and now you're thinking about, later in the game of, okay, I've already thrown 3 perfect innings. Maybe if I just keep doing what I'm doing, I'm going to throw a perfect game. And you start getting ahead of yourself rather than just focusing on the task at hand. And golf is a very good example for me and for many people as well, is, the game of golf allows you to, or causes a lot of people to look to the future. You start off around with a par, and you're already thinking, okay, let's just keep getting pars and I'm going to be golden. I'm going to have a great round. Then you get a double or a triple bogey and you go 10 steps back. It's the same thing with pitching. We can't get too far ahead of ourselves. Even if we're doing well, we have to make sure that we are staying focused on the task at hand. So today I want to talk about 3 steps or 3 things that you can do as a coach specifically to help the culture of your team. So step 1 is to create a culture where it is okay to fail. Step 2, I'm going to dive into rewarding players for good process, not good results. And then the last step, or the last point I'm going to make, is showing your players that you care about them regardless of performance. So let's dive in with number 1, creating a culture where it is okay to fail. So let's start with step 1, creating a culture where it is okay to fail. Failure is something we never want to happen, but it's inevitable. The sooner you can accept that, the better. Truth be told, I think failure is good because it means that there's something to learn and there's something to be gained as a result of that. If as a coach I criticize my players every time they fail, it's going to create that fear of failure aspect. They're going to be worried about every move that they make, every decision that they make, and how it's going to be affected by the team as well as the coaches specifically. They're going to be the players that get stuck thinking about the past because they know that they are going to get yelled at after an inning or a game. When players operate out of fear, they play more reserved and take less chances. They play it safe, essentially. Extraordinary teams are aggressive and play with confidence. Even if it doesn't go the way we planned, there is still something that we can learn. We always want to use those failures as an opportunity for growth. Demonstrate to your players that you fail at times as a coach. That's one thing that I've learned and been trying to be better about, is reflecting on my own self and the decisions that I make and being an example for players that way. Show them that it's okay to take chances, because a big reason players play tight is because their coach is tight. Be the example that your players need. Number 2 is to reward players for good process and not good results. It can be much easier to look at the box score and see who played well and who didn't. But does it actually tell us the whole story? I would argue that it doesn't. A large portion of results are out of the player's control, yet we judge them primarily on their stats. And I would say that usually they're not even the right stats to begin with that we're looking at. So let's look at an example of 2 players' performances. So we have player number 1 that went 5 innings, gave up 4 hits, 4 runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. Player number 2, he also went 5 innings, but he gave up 2 hits, no runs, walked 4 guys, and only struck out 3. If we went off of runs, we would take player number 2 performance, but we know that high walks and low strikeouts are not sustainable for long-term success. Focusing on the process gives you consistency on what to evaluate and where you need to improve. If we're only going off of purely how many runs they gave up and some of those more broader stats, we're going to be missing the link of what is causing them to have success or causing them to be failing. But if we have a good process in place that we know leads to long-term success, like throwing strikes, limiting free bases, getting swing and misses and strikeouts, if we evaluate guys off of that and they're doing those things well, even if the results might not be there right now and immediately, we know long-term that it will lead to success. And that's important because we want to make sure that we are sending that message to players about what we truly value and focusing on the things that we do believe lead to good results. Because let's just say player A, let's just say he has a couple starts where he's giving up some runs, but he's not walking guys, he's missing a lot of bats. And if as a coach, we're harping on him and getting on him and yelling at him because he's giving up runs and we think he needs to change his whole plan, that's going to take away from the things that he's doing really well. And he might be just 1 or 2 outings away from really taking off and continuing down that trajectory. But if we're not preaching those things about the process, he's going to lose confidence and he's going to think that he's pitching much worse than he actually is. And number 3, show your players you care about them regardless of performance. And this one is the most important one by far, because now we're going more to a human level, regardless of what they do for us from a baseball standpoint. I get it. It's a baseball team. I'm their coach or you're their coach. But at the end of the day, who they are as a human and showing that we care about them is the most important thing, in my opinion. It may not be intentional, but we have all seen coaches, or are guilty ourselves, that treat the better players different from the rest. This would describe a transactional coach. It's about what can you do for me versus, just evaluating you as a person and loving you regardless of what you do for me from that standpoint. It is all about what benefits you being a transactional coach. What makes you look good, who wins games for you. But to be a transformational leader, which I would argue is what we should be striving for as coaches, is it starts with caring for each and every one of our players. That is the difference between a transformational coach and a transactional coach. It's not about what you can do for me. It's not about how many games you win for me. It's about the human and the relationship piece. So here are just a few ways and some ideas of how you can show players that you care about them. One can be simply you take them out to lunch. You pick a random player. Maybe you go through all of them. I understand we have a team of 30 guys. It can be tough to do a one-on-one lunch. But like showing something like that, if you have an opportunity, take a small group of players. Take one pitcher if you can. Take them out to lunch and just talk to them about whatever they want to talk about, whether it's school stuff. It could be baseball stuff. But like I would push it to be just regular things and just kind of get to know them on a deeper level outside of the baseball field. Another option could be just give them authentic encouragement and praise. Like find opportunities to build your guys up and to lift them up. Another one would be ask about how their family's doing, right? Like most of these people, they have siblings, they have brothers or sisters, they have parents. Like ask how they're doing. Use their names. Like if you're using their names, that is showing that you actually do care and you're not just doing surface level questions like, hey, how's everyone in your family doing? Great. Like that's a good first step. But like if you can go that next step of asking about specific people in their family or referencing their name, maybe they have a brother that's starting high school or is going to a new college or something. Bring up a question about that, how the transition's going for them. Just show that you care about them on a deep level. And then another idea is just when a player shares something with you, follow up in the near future. So that's an opportunity that a player is inviting you in to build that relationship and build that trust. So if they say something to you that, whether it's about school, it's about a girlfriend, it's about something family related, don't just stop the conversation there, but make sure you follow up and continue it in the following weeks just to show that, you actually, it's just another way of showing that you actually care about them. Like they're a human, treat them like a human and not just a player, and about what they can do for you on the baseball field. So I hope these 3 steps or these 3 ideas are helpful for you to help build a culture within your team. There's obviously, other areas we can go into about specific things about the mental game of baseball specifically, but I would argue that a lot of the mental struggles that players have on the field is stemming from things outside of baseball. And if we can be a good leader for them, if we can be a coach that creates an environment and a culture where we can build trust, we can build these qualities, we're going to get better results on the field as well. Before I let you go, I wanted to remind you guys about my 3-day pitching masterclass. This is going to be taking place from August 9th to 11th in Phoenix, Arizona. During this camp, it's going to be for specific ages of 16 to 23 years old. We're going to be doing a bullpen with motion capture and force plate mound. We're going to be doing a TrackMan and Edgertronic bullpen session where we can really dive into your pitch shapes and create a plan. I'm also going to be giving you a personalized drill package and a plan for 2 months after this camp. And also throughout this camp, I'm going to be diving into some specific pitching presentations to just help better inform you on things like pitch design and mechanics. I only have 2 spots left, so make sure you click the link below to sign up.